Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again for another episode of Society Survivors. And again, Society Survivor is a branch of my Generational Survivors global platform, which was designed to empower our communities on a local and global scale by raising awareness of societal topics that are often kept in the background. Please view our past episodes and receive updates and resource information when you visit our Facebook page, Generational Survivors. And joining me today is our beautiful co host and show producer, Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru. What a
Uh,
special day it is today, Miss
it
Alicia. How are
is.
you?
I am wonderful because today is my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. And of course, to me, on my birthday, I believe that's enough for us to celebrate and we can just not do anything else. So if it was me, this would be the whole show because it's my birthday. But no, we actually have a show today.
Yeah,
Seriously,
we have some important topics to
we
discuss.
very important, and we're going in. I'm normally the conservative one, but not today. Um,
Right.
we have to give thanks in all things. I mean, I'm joyous about another year, but especially during this time, I'm just happy that my family and I are well. We're safe, we're protected, we have what we need, and you have to give thanks for that. I was supposed to be
Absolutely.
out of the country celebrating with a friend, but you know what? There's still love that surrounds me, and there will be a time in the future where we can resume some of those luxuries and things we really enjoy, which is very important to today's episode because, again, we want to be objective, but there's some things you really need to know that you're not always seeing in the media and you're not always really tying together. So we're going to bring you some of those things today with our real talk conversation. But this first clip was very thought provoking, and I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see it and view it. And all happens in the lovely state of Michigan. So let's
Hmm.
look of that right here. Give me a moment. I have a lot on my screen, I'm telling you. I work a lot of different pages, but you must see this because it's very, very important.
Yes.
Mm. Yes. Well, 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 and well. Um,
That's a lot there.
That's a lot. And really just to give the part that they thought was so strict and so egregious that Governor Whitmer, Michigan's governor, did was she prohibited people in her state from visiting family or friends in groups of any size, in public or private. She also placed restrictions on what type of businesses may operate and restricted essential personnel from selling non essential items. She also banned travel to second home and vacation properties. Now,
Hmm.
some Americans see this as restrictive, despite her status like the fourth largest for corona case viruses. However, China is doing more than this, and I'll give you some details later, as they're facing their second round of coronavirus. You know, they were one of the countries that were able to look like almost eradicate this virus. And when they resumed back to normal, and they had more restrictive measures than we did, when they resume back to normal, they start seeing that people that were first diagnosed, the area they were first diagnosed in, there started to be another outbreak. So they quickly went back to the same restrictive policies they had previously so they could stop the spread for a second time. Sadia, what are your thoughts?
I think that what the governor in Michigan has done is she's trying to save lives in her population throughout her state, and I think she was doing a good job of it. And I think for
Yes,
anyone to question her, you put her in this seat to make those difficult decisions, and we as a people sometimes we let our selfishness forego what really should be, is protecting us from ourselves, basically.
right.
I think the people in Michigan have looked at this from a point of view of now, I've done this for a couple of weeks, and now it's time for us to go back. Numbers are starting to decrease, and I think people get a false sense of
Security.
just a false sense of what's
Security.
happening next,
Mm-hmm.
because they see that some of the numbers are starting to decrease. You see that on the news, they're speaking more of their lives being more people are walking out of the hospitals after being diagnosed with COVID-19, and now they're coming out on top. So, and I'm glad that the news is shedding more happy numbers instead
Yes.
of the decline of all the people that we're losing. But we have to remember that we are still losing people, period, throughout this, and that the necessary safety measurements that each governor is putting together in their state is for our own safety, is to protect us as a people. um, China is going through their second wave. And I know, Alicia, you're going to get into that a little bit later within our discussion, but that's what the fear is here, that if we
Yes.
open up our country too soon, there will be a second wave. And really quickly, I just wanted to point out that we opening up the country because we're starting to see the curve is starting to flatten just a
Right.
bit. And because people are complaining about their businesses and losing business and, not being able to make the money that they will normally make, especially when it becomes hot. Some of those non-essential businesses, they depend on hot spots, vacation spots, our tourists and things like that. What's alarming about this, Alicia, is there was a statement made from Dr. Oz, where he stated that,
Yeah, we're gonna get
we
into
might
that.
open up the country and we may lose 2 to 4% of our children. And he was okay with that. He said that percentage that number is okay with me. I
Well, I'll
don't
tell
think
you
that
what,
a
before we get
percentage of
into that,
anything.
well, we might as well just show that clip. We might as well show that clip.
Let's go there, because
Yeah.
I really need for us to go there. This is
Oh
detrimental.
my, oh
Show the clip.
my.
Show the clip.
Yeah. Well, I agree. That is something they need to hear for themselves. So let's go there. Actually, it's Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. So let's hear from both.
Exactly.
All right. So that is what you were alluding to. Um, we're going to talk about it in a moment. And I want to give this disclaimer before we get into it that, you know, on the show, we try to give you things with clarity, transparency, and different points of views, different perspective, so you can make an educated decision. We're not in any way racist or supporting bigotry comments or statements or trying to share that perspective. But there is some disparity when it comes here. And I know, Sadia, your comments about to go there. So that's why I want to give a disclaimer. We're giving you the facts and presenting to you what is being said in the research so you can make your own educated decision. But if race plays a factor here, we can't hide that either.
Absolutely.
Yes, take it away, Miss Audia, because I know you got something to say.
So after viewing that clip, it was very disturbing to hear. And these are two media icons. They're in the
Yes,
media a lot. People respect their opinions, value what they have to say.
they
So when you
absolutely do.
hear those folks, these two media icons stating that, it's okay if we lose, that number is not alarming to me. Why isn't it alarming to you? And then you go off and you state about car accidents. You compare coronavirus to a car accident, and we lose people every day to drunk driving and things of that nature. Well, here is a disease where we don't even have a vaccination for. To bring all of our children back into the school system to when we open up this country again, and to think that there's not going to be terrible loss. Not only will we be losing our children, a percentage of our children, but remember, those children also have to go home to those parents or those guardians, those
Yes.
grandmothers, those grandfathers, those people who have to be caregivers to them. So we not only lose a percentage of our children, but we also lose a percentage of the caregivers, perhaps, who are caring for them, because there is not a vaccination. So to carelessly put that statement out, I think that's
Yes.
absurd. I think that it was cruel, and no amount of apology given could take back what you stated, because that's how you truly felt. And even if someone provided you with that script and told you to read that, as a human being, it was for you, it was your due diligence, it was up to you to decide that this is way out of base for me. As a doctor, I cannot consciously put that out and feel comfortable with that. I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent. Not no, that to me, it's just it's as though our society is based upon the financial economics that, you know, a person has. Who deserves to live? Who deserves to die? You know, where are we at with this? And Alicia, I'm glad that you put out that disclaimer, because this is not a racial based show.
Right.
And I
But
know, but we
when we
want to
get to
bring
things
out,
like this,
yes,
they said what they meant.
exactly.
I want people to understand that. Anyone in media, even us doing this, you think about what you say. Am I to say you never misspeak? Of course you do. There might be some things you look back and be like,
Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
right. No, no, no. When you make statements like this, you mean what you say. You mean what you say. Now, what motivated you, we'll never know. It could be money, it could be a different agenda, but you meant what you said. And here's what the problem comes in at. People are always talking about percentages and numbers, 2 or 3%, da 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 da. Yeah. On April the 7th, US Today printed an article that said Black people were dying from coronavirus at much higher rates in cities across the US. Michigan, we just talked about the governor of Michigan. Michigan
Right.
is one of the states on that list, and they also included Illinois, Louisiana, New Jersey, and North Carolina. But take somewhere like Louisiana. Blacks make up for 70% of the deaths from coronavirus, although they only account for 30% of the population. So sometimes when people are giving you the 2 to 3%, well, you know, well, I'm looking at these numbers of how many minorities, how many blacks are catching the disease versus maybe my race, if I'm not African American, 2 or 3% of that. And then you assume you're healthy. You don't really take it serious that you're gonna get it or your family's gonna get it. Depending on what your foundation is and how you feel, you are willing to risk 2 to 3% because you may feel that you and your family are exempt and it's not all that serious to you. That's why if you are watching this show and you are African American, we are always stressing for everybody, but especially for you, consider the source of the information that you research and listen to during this time because there's
Absolutely.
information going forth, but trust me, they know the demographics. And a lot of us, if you think about it, when they're making these decisions for mandates and how you're affected and who should get ventilators and what health care and when we should open up, most of us are not even at the table. We're not invited to the table. We're
No.
in a political position to make these decisions at the top. So we really have very little say so from that perspective. So if you're not careful, if you're not listening, if you're not observing, if you're not watching, and you're not having credible sources, you'll buy into this stuff. Oh, yes, you know, there's less deaths. Look at all the people that are recovering. Look at all the people that are not. looking at more people who are dying at home because these hospitals won't even let them come in, or they
there
don't
you go.
have access to health care.
Talk about that.
Access to health care. You may have access to health care, they may not. And when they reach out to some of these clinics, when they reach out to some of these hospitals, because they have insurance, or maybe where they live, there's not good access to health care, they're being told to stay at home. And yes, in some conditions, that's appropriate. In other ways, it's not. So let's not be foolish either to understand what these numbers are when they're talking about 2 to 3%. Sometimes you have to look deeper than what's just on the surface or what you're seeing at Facebook or what have you to get the real information. And one more thing I want our viewers and listeners to keep in mind at the same time. Now, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. This show isn't about that. However you vote, whoever you vote for, that's your business and your right, your choice. But at the same time, keep in mind, we are in a country where funding is being cut from the World Health Organization. We are in a pandemic, and one of the largest organizations responsible for research to get us out of this mess, funding is being cut. This is the same administration that cut funding and eradicated positions that were in particular for the pandemic in 2018. So if you are Black, African American, however you want to identify your race, and you're not digging for true, accurate information and understanding what is being said when they're giving you these percentages, my friend, you're doing you and your family a disservice, because a lot of people statistically are banking on your death versus theirs in this. And it's not just what we're saying. I want to share with you another clip, because this is from Dr. Fauci himself. And he's even talking about the disparities as far as this is concerned. You know what? That's one of the best things that he could have said. Because
he said the best.
You know, even when you're reading media about the disparities, people are saying here going, well, this just proves that you should eat right and you should do this and you should do, you know what? That's like being at a time of war and analyzing what we did wrong to prepare. You're on the battle lines. I mean, that information is important, and there's a time to review that later, but you're on the battle line. How do you protect the country now? That's what we have to look at with the coronavirus. If you have existing conditions, you have existing conditions. Same way, you know, we do know there's certain things you could do better to take care of yourself. And you do that even amongst the pandemic. But let me do the other spin here. People are having problems finding toilet paper. Okay? So a lot of the things you should be doing, you're probably having problems finding the right medicines, the right food, the right ingredients, especially if this wasn't your practice ahead of time. So
Absolutely.
all of us need to do our due diligence, because you're seeing for certain populations, certain states, certain areas, the bell curve is going down. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's good news. But it's not good news where between the heat of summer coming and we're going stir crazy because we've been through this
Yep.
for a month or so, you know, we can resume back to normal. You may have that desire. You may even have that want, but you don't want to do things because you're going to hurt yourself. I go back to that first clip, and you're saying, you know, we have the right. Everybody has a right. You have a right to do anything, but you don't have the right to hurt other people. You're talking about your hair, and it's the same thing I get. It sort of gets under my skin. Are we so vain and ignorant that you're willing to risk your life and mine, not just yours? If you want to risk yours, that's your business, but your life and mine and the health of your community, because you need your roots dyed, you need your acrylic tips, you need to have your fine dining choices. Are you kidding me? Are we really that vain of a country that because our hair or our nails or our comfortability, we're not able to eat where we want to or find what we want or vacation, we're willing to risk the death of this country for luxuries and pleasantries? You know, if you
Well, there are some people who are willing to do so. We
well, I
see
want
that.
you to
It's
do that
apparent,
just for you, and go ahead
you know.
and quarantine yourself in your house and then go do whatever you want to with all the people that are willing to do it with you. Don't come in my path. Don't come in my family's path. Stay away from me. Maybe you guys can have a whole island where you can have this little thing that you want to do, and get yourself sick.
Well, it's apparent that people are comfortable with compromising other people's safety along with their own. And that was
Yes,
apparent with that Michigan woman's statement in reference to getting her hair done. And it was also apparent with the Michigan man's statement about
yes.
is it that serious that we can't even garden and go pick up things for our gardening? It is that serious because that's not essential right now, doing your gardening. And it's
And
great.
honestly,
That's
you can get those things shipped to your house in most cases.
a-
But if you want to do
absolutely,
that and garden all day, that's your activity, whatever, fine. Go get it shipped to your house. Enjoy
absolutely,
your gardening. Find out.
absolutely.
But it's funny you mentioned that because they're saying that's restrictive. Let me share with you about China. A fresh cluster of cases has been reported among medical staff at Jia's County People's Hospital, where one of them just spent 14 days in quarantine after returning from Wuhan in neighboring Hubei province, where the disease
Mm,
first emerged at the end of last year. As
mm,
county authorities have imposed travel restrictions with non-essential travel banned between villages and communities. Anyone coming in and out of residential compounds is required to wear a face mask, have their temperature taken, and produce a certificate to prove they are healthy, according to an official document leaked to Radio Free Asia. Everything's locked down. It just started, said one resident. Businesses are closed except for supermarkets and farmer markets, with 600,000 people effectively living under curfew, according to the government's Weibo account. One resident said that all households are locked down. Nobody can go into town, or if you do, you won't be able to leave again. We haven't even finished dealing with the first wave, nor have we seen any measures as restrictive as other countries who had practically eradicated this virus. But, you know, we have a government that's in a battle about opening the country back up.
mm.
I mean, we really have to think about this. And as I said previously, especially if you're an African American or you are predisposed, you have one of those people that have a compromised immune system, you really need to be doing your research from credible sources, and you need to make educated decisions for not only you and your family, because yes, it is important that you preserve yourself and your family first, but your community. And one of the final
Absolutely.
I give before I turn it back over to you, Sadia, look at Chris Como. Chris Como is the brother of Andrew Como, who's the governor for New York. And what you saw with Chris Como, he actually was infected with the coronavirus. And now he's disheartened. He tried to quarantine as much as he could within his house. You know, he has 2 children and he's married.
His wife.
His wife hasn't. And they're trying to figure out how to distance from one another and how not to spread this to their children. And they're in a home. And as you know, they were saying, it's it's very difficult to be in a house with coronavirus and not give it to everybody else. You have your dishes, someone's bringing you food and serving you. Someone's taking your dishes and things you use. And even if they don't go into your common area like they used to, there's going to be some cross contamination opportunities. This virus can live on some surfaces for 2 days or longer. So once one person in the house gets it, it's pretty hard not to spread it to anyone else. And you're hoping that you don't put your family in a compromised situation. You're hoping your children don't get this and get sick or someone in your family dies. But this is the time to be more vigilant than ever, not the time to ignore all good reason. I'll give you this as well. There's one article that was published last night that is saying we in the US, we might be facing where we're advised no longer to go in the grocery store and have everything sent from home, because some of these grocery store chains are noticing all the precautions they're taking, they cannot do enough with the volume that's coming in to keep their employees from being sick and dying. So we're not far from this. We're not out of this yet. We really
not
have
for
to
a long time.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Sadia? Your final thoughts?
Not for a long shot. We're nowhere near over this pandemic, and as much hope as we're trying to spread with telling, and I hear the news coming out saying how the curve is starting to flatten, and there are a lot of hospitals releasing. We even got that update through one of our interviewees,
in New York,
patient assistant care individual. She was saying that her hospital has released more than 400 patients that were doing better from coronavirus, and that's absolutely awesome. And I'm happy to hear that more people are surviving this. Yes. But there are also, as much as we want to look at it like, okay, great, people are surviving, more people are leaving the hospital. Maybe we can start to go back to normal. We can't. We can't. There is not a sense of normalcy to put in place yet. These governors are making these hard decisions, and I applaud our governor, Governor Northam. I applaud Governor Cuomo. I applaud the governor in Michigan,
Whitmer,
and all those governors, the governor of North Carolina, all those governors who are putting in place these solid safety measures to keep us all safe from genocide, because that's what this could turn into. This could turn into a racial genocide. And the fact of the matter is, China is seeing a second wave, even with all of the safety measures that they have put in place. Yes. And like you just stated, like you just read, our safety measures are nowhere comparable to what their safety measures are.
China was cleaning the streets.
Exactly.
They were disinfecting the streets.
So imagine if we were to open up the country right now and say that everything can go, non-essential personnel can go back to working, those businesses can open.
Sadia, that is in Virginia where we are. There were almost 500 new cases confirmed of those that have the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. So, on people, the numbers are still, you might not have the deaths maybe where you are going up, but the numbers of people being diagnosed with this, they're still increasing in a lot.
They're still increasing, but they have no way of knowing who's asymptomatic. So when you open up the country and bring it back to normal again, what about those asymptomatic carriers? There's no way of knowing who has this virus. And I understand what they're saying,
Absolutely. I
I
would
get
love to
it.
believe you too, because I would love
Right.
to be able to enjoy some of the things we had before, but not to risk my life to do it.
I don't want to risk my life or anyone else's life. I feel as though if we have to take a step back and we have to sit it down, that's what we need to do. And we need to continue to do that until there has been some type of finalization through all of this. The coronavirus is just getting, to me, it's just getting started here. I
Yes.
don't feel as though we're nowhere near where China is, well,
No.
was. I feel as
No.
though we're just getting into the
No.
thick of things. And I feel as an individual in America, we all have a responsibility, not only to self, but to our communities around us, to our children. If we want to have legacies, if we want
Yes.
to leave our legacy to someone, we have responsibilities that we must carry forth. So if that means staying in your house and isolating, these grocery store workers, and I read this a long time ago, Alicia, and I think I told you this, that they were talking about cordoning off the non-essential areas in the stores
Yes.
because people were using grocery stores as like a hangout now.
Right.
And I can contest to that. I can contest to seeing that for myself, going into BJ's, picking up my essential items, and looking at people on just kind of like hanging out,
Right.
grocery carts full, and hearing midway conversations of, oh, I'm so tired of these people wearing these masks.
Yes.
Mind you, you're parked up on the side of the grocery, in the aisle of the grocery store of BJ's, and your grocery cart is full, so you're finished shopping, but you and another friend are just hanging out in the aisles. So
Right.
I can contest, and I can hear over the loudspeaker in BJ's, they're telling us, we must keep in mind social distancing. We must keep in mind that if you're finished shopping for your essential items,
Yeah.
please check out, leave the store so that we can bring more people in, to limit the amount of shoppers that we have in one area at the same time. So they are trying to do everything that they can do, but it's up to us as a people to respect that and to
Yes.
understand that these are trying times. These are not normal times.
No, they're not.
These are abnormal times, Alicia. And I get fired up because there are a lot of people out here that are not taking this as seriously. And even the ones that are taking it as seriously, they're feeling like in Michigan, enough is enough. Why can't we just have our own way and go back to the way things were?
Mm.
Well, how long was the Great Depression, Alicia?
Mm.
How long was the Spanish flu?
I'm about to say, look what happened when they had their big parade to
Exactly.
the end of it, and how many people died after that.
Exactly.
It does repeat itself. So before you get too comfortable, maybe you should go back to things like that and ask yourself, if we really want to duplicate that again? And understanding that the longer we don't adhere to protective measures, the longer we don't do what's advised and really get a handle on this, the longer it's going to be. So if you're complaining because financially you're strapped and this is an inconvenience for you, well, if you won't adhere to what the mandates are, what could maybe be done in maybe 3, 4, 5 months, now might be a whole year or two. If you think the economy is suffering now, how much more will it suffer if this gets extended by months and months and months? Not because someone has mandates, but because no one's obeying the mandates and doing what is practical and necessary. Because remember,
Absolutely.
we still don't have a cure to this yet. So as much as we don't have access to health care for everybody, we don't have all the protective equipment and things people need, we're running out of certain resources, we also don't have a cure. So that by itself just means that if more people, if this continues to spread and we're doing things ridiculously for it to spread, then there's not gonna be enough medical care to save everybody. So now,
not going to be enough healthcare professionals around to save everyone.
No.
There's a shortage now here in Virginia. They're asking for volunteers. They need
And a lot of
volunteers in
people
the
are
medical.
getting sick in the medical, are recovering and coming right back
Coming right back.
sick again because they're caring for people who have a total disregard of any safety measure.
Absolutely.
This is very important. We can go on and on, but we're not. But
No.
for any of the clips, the research, the resources, continue to follow Generational Survivors Facebook page. That will give you the website. You can also follow the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. We will give you the links as well to that. And just remember, you know, there's always trying times in society. We always have certain times of tribulations and challenges and difficulties. But what's more important is that we live through it. And that's the point. We want you to live to see another birthday. We want you to live and your family be healthy. So when things are back to normal, whatever the time frame is, that you are able to have a good quality of life instead of grief over the numbers of people that are lost. And if you've already lost somebody in your family or friendship, I think with the numbers now, it's impossible for almost anyone to say, I don't know anyone personally that died with coronavirus or been infected. If you've personally experienced that, then you owe it to not just yourself and your family, but your community to take vigilant steps for your safety, your family's safety, and your community safety. And there's always going to be people that go against the grain and do what they want to do, but make sure that's not you. You're keeping well, you're keeping safe, and that we don't panic, but we pray, we plan, and we prepare until this is over. So until next time, bye-bye for now.